everyone, how are you? So it's my first time in Australia, and I thought it was important that we dive into the most important topic, in my opinion, in crypto, blockchain, and financial technology industries today, which is we need to move away from a crypto-centric approach to a utility-centric approach, right? Because over the past few years, what we've seen is crypto has been seen as a tool of speculation, trade, quick returns, and to some extent, financial freedom, right? Where people are claiming that since I have Bitcoin, I don't have to worry about the government taking it away from me. So moving forward, so with the new era of innovation and disruption, the space is experiencing an unprecedented boom with a surge of innovative and disruptive projects, right? We're looking at about more than 10,000 projects in the industry today. And the projects building within these sectors include decentralized financial technologies, non-fungible tokens, infrastructure plays, right? We've seen a big boom in that, especially amongst VCs and private equity firms when it comes to funding rounds. And of course, the age-old blockchains, layer 1 and layer 2s. And amongst that, for the crypto degens, there's been a special love for gaming. So to walk through the chronology a bit, back in 2017, we saw the ICO boom, right? Where hundreds and thousands of projects were coming to the exchanges, doing initial coin offerings, and made that their main source of funding. Of course, we saw how that played out, not very well, right? And moving forward to 2019 was the age of initial DEX offerings and initial exchange offerings, similar to 2017, right? Did not play out really well. After that, around 2021, we actually saw the market go down by 90%. Wasn't great for the hodlers. In 2020, we saw the DeFi summer, right? Where we saw the total value locked go up by 40,000%. Right, these were your staking programs and the programs that were designed to provide returns to users based on leveraging, similar to Celsius, right? In 2021, this is what I couldn't believe the most. This was the NFT craze, right? I believe the total traded volume for NFTs went up by 480,000% just over a few months, wherein I believe, let's say, Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs were being sold for millions. That did not appreciate and hold its value very well. Moving over to 2022, blockchain gaming and metaverse got a lot of hype, especially with our friends at Facebook, converting their branding to Meta and moving their approach from social media to the metaverse, essentially. And now, coming back to 2023, with ChatGPT, Google Bard, and various AI programs. Along with that, the real-world assets, such as the Bitcoin ETF, right, and real-world applications have taken charge. I believe the reasoning behind this is that with the past couple difficult years, especially after 2021, the bad actors were cleaned out of the ecosystem. Right, so people have started just now to understand how Web 3.0 needs to focus on specific industries, specific utilities, and how to actually build value. So, talking a bit about the growth potential, right? We look up to 2023, we've seen a large growth in the crypto industry, but when you look at actual Web 3.0, blockchain technology applications, and financial technologies, the CAGR is relatively underwhelming because we haven't seen mass adoption in that case. And as I'll explain later, there's many industries that have very large growth potential. So considering that and the trend we're on right now, we're looking at a CAGR of about 44.5% between 2023 until 2032 when it comes to Web 3.0 and blockchain technology applications in some of the current and old industries. So I just wanted to list out, mentioning the industries that could use blockchain technologies. I wanted to list out how, number one, it's quite underwhelming how people haven't gone after these industries, and in my opinion, fairly stupid, right? I mean, you look at healthcare, music streaming, media, even legal, right? AI has actually made more contributions to the law enforcement or legal services industry than crypto has, or blockchain really has. Even insurance, right? Charity. I mean, there's so many industries where we've seen an underwhelming amount of engagement from innovators when it comes to blockchain innovation, and rather the retail traders and even innovators have really focused on speculative offerings of, let's say, ERC20 tokens or similar sort of utility tokens and non-fungible tokens where everyone just wants to make a quick return. But as I mentioned, 92% of the people worldwide are aware of crypto, but only 8% are familiar with Web3, right? It's still a relatively niche industry. The everyday utility and tangible value edition is missing, and of course, the complex regulatory outlook. Honestly, less than complex, the regulations themselves are relatively confused, right? How to go about sort of controlling the speculation, identifying whether or not tokens are securities, figuring out how to reduce fraud, how to protect buyers' assets, right? That has been one of the main focuses for regulation. But because of their narrative on it, people who may not have the ability to become as educated on the subject have been staying away, right? Which is why we saw that large chart of industries that are not being actively pursued when it comes to blockchain and crypto application, when it comes to value transfer and value storage. So the real roadblock is there is a need for real-world impact. Blockchain and crypto narratives have become too complex, too technical for the everyday person to understand, and even for the older business owners and major industry players to understand, right? There's a large amount of user experience landmines and onboarding challenges. And what the crypto and blockchain industry need to focus together on is making Web3 as not a crypto-centric industry, but a user-centric industry, right? We need to make crypto matter in everyday life, not just onboard users to crypto. The key is real-world impact, wherein the key isn't to use crypto, the key is to use crypto and blockchain-based applications to make current utilities more efficient, right? So these are the dilemmas for enterprises and users alike. The unmet expectations for enterprises and users. In many cases, there's no specific solutions for enterprises, such as, let's say, insurance, for example, right? You don't know many solutions specifically catering to them. There's inaccessible benefits for users and absolutely underwhelming user experience. I couldn't even imagine my grandma trying to use a MetaMask wallet, right? There's a large amount of challenges for user onboarding from Web 2 to Web 3, as I mentioned. My grandma would be a prime candidate. There's unfamiliarity with blockchain, an absence of intuitive interfaces, and paradigm shifts for users as users are relatively unlikely to adapt unless you really hold their hands, right? Or they see a large amount of incentive to do it. So, as I mentioned, there's a need for real-world solutions, right? And the real vision of everyday applications has gone missing. Only a small segment providing real-world solutions. And there's a lot of generic ones that lack specificity in their solutioning and fail to cater to diverse needs. So, following this up, I wanted to add a few industries that I believe that have many applications for blockchain, especially for value transfer and store of value, right? Which would be the healthcare industry, where it has ineffective interoperability. There's issues with data management and clinical trials, and also drug counterfeiting. The supply chain industry, which has provenance tracking. It could have improved supply chain management, and it would also help establishing trust. The travel industry, where we could avoid overbooking and fraud if we were to use blockchain as a technology. We could solve a major issue, which is a lack of transparency when it comes to the travel industry. I mean, the amount of reels I see on Instagram with people talking about travel hacks and the amount of things that airlines aren't telling you. I mean, 50% of that is true, but I'm sure 50% is also bullshit. So another thing we could do using blockchain as a technology is streamline ticketing. And then this is my favorite one, because this is what Zeebu's all about, the telecom industry, right? Wherein B2B settlements have major issues when it comes to international wire transfers, right? And blockchain is a real solution for that, as well as invoicing, where post-reconciliations and disputes, there needs to be a centralized ledger for the invoices, right, that can follow the transactions happening as well, because these telecom carriers and operators all over the world do hundreds of thousands of transactions on a weekly basis. And this is the biggest one, which is manual and inefficient processes, because they work with a large amount of components that require major human intervention as of now. But with smart contracts and even AI, many of these problems can be solved. But the problem is, it's such an old industry, right? People are unlikely to adapt, which is why they need a sort of hand-holding to give them the proper user experience and the incentives to get involved and participate with blockchain technologies. So let's jump right into Zeebu and what we're all about, right? When it comes to the telecom industry, we want to bridge Web 2 to Web 3. And we want to seamlessly integrate the familiarity of Web 2 with the functionality of Web 3, right? Because as I mentioned, let's talk about the telecom carrier industry, right? They're major players in the telecom industry as a whole, it's the sector as a whole, right, doing about $120 billion in transactions on an annual basis. But the problem is they have gotten used to so many manual interactions. There's so much consolidation in the industry that they aren't willing to adapt, right? But they still are looking for better solutions to streamline their businesses and the transactions that they're doing already. So that is the main focus of Zeebu, wherein we're giving them the Web 2 experience while giving them Web 3 utilities. Our key differentiators is that we're tackling a real-world challenge by revolutionizing the settlement experience in the telecom sector. Now, the importance behind this is, before I do that, who in this room knows what the function of a telecom carrier is? If you can just raise your hands. So like 5 people. Okay, yeah, it's a underwhelmingly known industry. So let's say you're based in London, right? As an example, your cell phone provider would be Vodafone. And I'm based in, I'm based in New York. My cell phone provider is AT&T. Now, me as an AT&T user, if I want to give a call to a Vodafone user, they're not directly interconnected, right? So there's multiple telecom carriers in between transferring voice, SMS, and data in order to connect the AT&T users and the Vodafone users in this example, right? There can be anywhere between 1, 3, or even 4 carriers routing those calls, SMSs, or data transfers, right? Now, as you've experienced, this is a fairly real-time service that they're rendering. But one of the major issues they face is that international wire payments amongst themselves take up to 96 hours in emerged markets, and even up to 16 days, and I've seen a few scenarios up to a month amongst unemerged markets for international wire payments, right? Mainly in the problems in the unemerged markets are that the 4 staple currencies of the industry, which is the US dollar, the euro, the Hong Kong dollar, and the Singapore dollar, have low availability, or their central bank or their central regulatory authorities have capital controls, right? Now, because of this long and extensive payment period, what can happen is they can go into a liquidity crunch. And especially in the market today, where the average margin amongst telecom carriers is about 3.5%, it's very important for them to keep churning volume. And as soon as their treasury runs out and their money's stuck in the bank, they cannot do so. And when they cannot do so, their partner carriers and operators aren't willing to give them the routes and the traffic in order to continue business. So with Zeebu, what we did was we made that settlement period go from 96 hours in emerged markets and 16 days in unemerged markets down to a 3 to 5 minute period, as we're all used to when we transact with crypto, right? And all it took was to create an interface that was Web2 user-friendly with Web3 utilities. We're providing customization, offering solutions specifically designed to cater the unique needs of telecom businesses, and leveraging this technology to address real-world problems and drive disruptive change. Oh, I see the slide's a little messed up here. That's fine. So right now we're acting as a payment settlements platform, right? But the end goal is to become a neobank catering to all financial needs for telecom companies and more, right? When, as of now, we're doing about, this week we did about $5.2 million in transactions per day on average, right? But this is all wallet-to-wallet transfers with some fiat on-ramp and off-ramp with third-party providers, right? Using the Zeebu Token as the payment rail. But we also want to provide settlement accounts to our users in order to give them an end-to-end experience, hence the neobanking play. What we are currently doing is providing them a unified currency experience. We have a loyalty and rewards mechanism as a method of customer acquisition, and we are eliminating intermediaries by giving them the end-to-end service. So the Zeebu token, very simple, it's an ERC20 based token. It's used mainly for value transfer amongst these telecom carriers who are absolutely dying to get onboarded into the platform, by the way. What we have on the platform itself right now is the Zeebu wallet, our payment gateway, loyalty rewards program, the Zeebu exchange itself, where we're providing swap services to all of these businesses, smart contracts that enable these transactions to happen without human intervention. We are coming up with credit and factoring services. So on top of just making settlements instantaneous, we will also be providing factoring services wherein, let's say, a vendor won't have to wait for the customer to pay them for the next 30 days, which is the contracted period, right? And along with that, we also provide very, very real-time analytics. So you're welcome to go to dashboard.zeebu.com if you would like to look at some of our analytics. So what's next for Zeebu? It would be geographic expansion, getting more and more partnerships and alliances on board, mainly users, right? Right now we have about 171 platform users, but that's 171 companies. Our target group is about 2,500 companies in the entire telecom carrier industry that we're going after. And of course, the neobank transition, as I mentioned, where we'll be bringing many new features to the platform, and we will also be doing community growth initiatives, which is where, I just want to give a small hint, we're coming up with an initiative called Zeebu Club, which is supposed to be an end banking play, but to start off with, it's simply a club where you get membership benefits such as discounting on products and events, right? So please scan the QR code to know all about Zeebu.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Raj. I'm going to ask some questions. Thank you to those who contributed to the app. I think it's a fascinating platform. However, I'm not sure if you know, but all of Australia knows how bad it is when a telco screws up, because that's what happened on Monday this week to half the population.
Right.
Yeah, so 10 million accounts affected.
Right.
And I feel like we all sort of got a short, sharp shock in thinking, wow, they want us to be a cashless society with all these EFT payments, yet half the businesses fell over that day.
Right.
So I think the first question, this wasn't asked, this is probably for myself, is how would a blockchain help fix that? Because Optus, which was the carrier, they went down and no one could contact them. So what do you think? Yeah, like it's all a bit raw for us, I think, still.
That's a tough question, number one, because I haven't heard about that one yet.
It's okay.
Australia's a bit far from the rest of the world.
Yeah. Does anyone actually know what happened yet? Because they've still been really quiet. Yeah, okay, so we don't know why, it just went dark.
Right.
But it was crazy. But,
maybe it was an infrastructure issue, right? Or a people problem.
Sounded like it. Right, cool. Let me just load up questions. So, first of all, what are the legal challenges in tokenizing? Oh, sorry, wrong one. Sorry. No, that's not you. Cool. So, what excites you that is currently happening in the blockchain industry?
So, I mentioned this earlier in my presentation, right? What's the most exciting part of 2023 for me is that, of course, we saw the market go down from 2021 until now, but it cleaned out a lot of the bullshit meme tokens and the stupid projects out there trying to say, give me $30 million and then I'm going to go to the moon, right? So that's one of the most exciting part for me, that they went bankrupt. The tokens are shit now, and there's room for real world utility.
Cool, that's great. Okay, and then in the evolution of Web3, how might traditional institutions adapt? And what does that mean for the broader economy? And I think here there's a nuance in traditional institutions also have quite a lot of power over us, and they're the resistance. Right. You know, could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Right, so I mean, I think this change really needs to be driven by innovators, right? But because you look at traditional institutions like, let's say, IBM, they're working with blockchain right now, but they don't necessarily have a reason to go all in on it. They've producing very good cash flow. They don't have a lack of, let's say, operability without blockchain. Or even insurance companies. I know some insurance companies that are still on DOS systems because they consider that to be the best security, right? I think it needs to be driven by innovators that understand traditional industries and companies' mentality and can provide them some sort of a Web2 interface that can slowly move them over to Web3 and help them understand the true utilities and the true inefficiencies that they have that can be solved using blockchain technologies.
Cool, thanks Raj. This is an interesting one. What is your key difference from Telecoin?
What is our key difference? I mean, for starters, we have very, very real users on our platform.
Cool.
Right. I mean, today we have about 172 telecom carriers that have processed about $170 million in transactions over the past 3.5, 4 months. What we are doing is we're giving them a Web2 feel on the platform itself, wherein they have very, very low interaction when it comes to traditional blockchain tools, such as wallets that are complicated and difficult to store. And along with that, we are also providing them a end-to-end service when it comes to fiat on-ramp, off-ramp.
Cool. How can businesses balance security and privacy in the decentralized landscape of Web3?
So, number one would be enterprise solutions, right? From personal experience, I would say this. Relying on cold wallets becomes increasingly difficult. As number one, when you're working with a lot of volume, your public address is very, very visible, right? It's blockchain. And with enterprise solutions, there's a certain amount of safety and a large amount of interactions before you can actually access the liquidity. So that would be.
Final question, with GDPR in Europe, what kind of future do you see for privacy within that for consumers? Like, do you see your Zeebu being able to actually help us stay more secure?
Right, so, I mean, look, if you're a good player in the industry, the way I look at it is there should be no issues with KYC, KYBs, right? So Zeebu strictly mandates that. What's important is when you're doing your KYC, KYBs, your transaction history doesn't just get publicly published, right? Which is, again, what Zeebu is very, very good at doing, especially amongst the telecom carriers where their routes are proprietary, their rates are proprietary, and if someone were to get access to their transactions and the amount of traffic they're processing, that would become problematic for them as it's so competitive, right? So again, enterprise solutioning and innovative products, helping these enterprises come on board and understand how this is actually a better method for privacy and transactions.
Thank you. Last quick one. What's your end vision then for Zeebu?
The end vision would be to provide end-to-end financial services to telecom carriers, everything from store value, value transfer, both between fiat and crypto, right?
Cool. Everyone, can you give a big round of applause to our keynote sponsor, Raj from Zeebu. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers, buddy.
5 billion